Good evening and welcome to episode 29 of Inside. I'm Dom Harben. I'm joined by JK and Jack Donovan. And tonight we're joined by the man who does this.
Turning into a public enemy, man. Now remember that line you was kicking to me on the way out to LA Lounge in Queens while we was in the car on our way to the shop? Well, yo, right now, kick the bass for them brothers and let them know
what goes on. Rolling stones of the rap game, not bragging. Lips bigger than Jagger, not sagging. Spelling backwards, I'ma leave it at that.
Of course, we're joined by former Leeds, Leicester and Bristol number 8, Mr. Jordan Crane. How are you this evening, Jordan?
Yeah, good. Not too bad.
Good. How's lockdown been treating you? Obviously, cutting the season short, seemingly, and then obviously you announcing your retirement sort of last week. You know what's on the horizon for you?
Lockdown's been good. It was sort of at the beginning. It was sort of, am I still going to play? Am I not going to play? Are we going to get the season going again? And then the thought of going for another pre-season, I thought to finish off the season, I thought not for me. So I'm this year I did like a dual coaching and playing role, coaching the under-18s, the Bristol Academy. So I'm going to take that up full time next year. Well, already have. So. Looking forward to it. It's a good, smooth transition to what I want to do after, so it's good.
Good. So just touching on your playing career, obviously, noticed you're a bit of a footballer to start off with before you switched to rugby union. What was that all about, really?
I played football till I was 14. Me and my brother, both football man. My brother went on to He did a YTS with West Brom, played for Burton Albion, Rushton and Diamonds. He still plays non-league football now, semi-professional. And our dad both made us play in goal, which is not the most exciting position. So I sort of got to this stage where I was in the West Brom Germany Academy at 13. You're playing in goal, you play half a game a week. At 13, that's not what you want to do. I went to high school, all my friendship group changed, they all played rugby. I got in the county team, they were like, why don't you come play rugby with us? So ended up down Worcester mini and juniors and went from there and never looked back really. Sort of 2-3 years later, got a scholarship to go play rugby at Colston's.
Brilliant. Perfect.
So where did the lead, going all the way up to Leeds, come about?
All the way up to Leeds. So
that's a big trek from Colston's to Leeds.
So I was in the Bath Academy. So basically, they paid 50% of all the boys' scholarships to go to Colston's. So the Colston's team was ridiculous. We had sort of 18 schoolboy internationals in our first team. 7 or 8 of us from my year went on to play professional. It was a ridiculous team, but and then that relationship sort of in my last year it sort of broke down between Bath and Colston's, and there was like myself, Tom Vondell, Shane Garrity. We were all in the Bath Academy, and none of us ended up going there. I went and met with John Connolly. And he was like, "Nah, you're too small to play second row. You're not quick enough to play back row. We don't want to sign you." So I was like, "Oh, great. What am I going to do now?" I just captain England under 18s. I thought, I must be all right. I went and met with Nigel Melville at Gloucester. They were keen to sign me and go to Hartbury. And Stuart Lancaster was peppering me for ages to go to Leeds. And I was just like the amount of love that they showed me and how much they wanted me to go there. And, they had aspirations for me to play early on with Phil Davis there as well. I just couldn't turn the opportunity down because I thought, a young lad, I want to play as soon as I can, senior rugby, and went there, played at 18, played A-League, played first team, played Parker Pen Cup, played all of it in my 18. I played 50 senior games by the age of before I was 20. So that was the reason behind the move to Leeds, really, and Stuart Lancaster.
Good old Yorkshire hospitality, eh? It's all about that.
I was just going to ask Jordan, because obviously Dom mentioned about your footballing skills. how much of that came in handy for the Heineken Cup semi at Millennium?
Oh, the question that everybody wants to know about the shootout, is the claim to fame. But it was one of those things where growing up, all I wanted to be was a footballer. So when you do that, you dream of like scoring the winning penalty in the FA Cup final or something like that, and being a footballer through the age groups and stuff like that, I'd kick goals and stuff like that anyway. And then when it becomes more serious and becomes professional, you just you're not kicking. You're a forward, you don't kick. So like it was almost, I knew that I could kick, but as soon as it went into penalties, we didn't even know that it was going into penalties. To be honest, after 100 minutes, you were pretty delirious anyway. And they say, "Oh, it's a penalty shootout," so you get a few guys step forward and go, "Yeah, I'll take it," and then the rest of the guys go to the back of the huddle. But I was confident. I was like, yeah, I'll take one. I'd have took one earlier, but as fate had it, I happened to be last up. It was lucky because Harry Ellis was after me, and he was crapping himself that much. He was trying to go to the other end of the pitch to try and practice before he could go. So it was a good job. I managed to finish it there, and then
Brilliant. I was going to ask, obviously you've said about your coaching with Bristol under-18s and everything, and obviously you're already in that role. During lockdown, is that something you've managed to have communication with the boys who are in that setup? And
so what we did straight away was WhatsApp groups were set up. All training plans were sent through. We sent through ideas of drills that they can do by themselves. That now they can sort of train in pairs or whatever. If they've got a brother who they can train with, or a sister, or a dad, or whatever. There's stuff that they can be doing, and so we've kept on top of it. And it's probably good to have that contact time with them, because when they're at school and off at school, they've got everyday life going on it. So we've had some real good outcomes with that, and then we have sort of a Zoom meeting once a week, just seeing how the lads are going, giving tasks and stuff to do around rugby education, stuff like that. So it's been a real good productive time for us. Like, there's nothing better than we'd want to be back training and playing, and we built up some momentum as an academy last year. So we're looking forward to this season, to having a full season with the guys, and there's been a big shake up with the Bristol Academy. So but we've made the most out of the period that we've had.
And what are your thoughts on, obviously, Super Rugby is due for a return on Saturday, and then obviously the Premiership sort of moving onwards. Do you think it's the right thing to do, finish the season, being how close it is for those European spaces?
I think so. From a Bristol perspective, we're going to win the league.
Big words.
No, I think it'd just be, if you can finish it, why not? If it doesn't affect the long-term nature of the game, it's a funny period, isn't it? Because the boys would never have had this much time off for their bodies to settle down, their bodies to recover. Probably the international guys now have been crying for a period like this to get their bodies back in working order. As long as it doesn't have an effect of all of a sudden you go from August the 15th until July next year, or to August next year without rest, and it's not safe for the players. I don't see why not finish the season. And they talk about it helping out, sorting out the global calendar and stuff like that. So it might be a good thing for the sport.
Yeah, and it's a lot of that is because obviously there's been talk as well about Six Nations, whether to make it a home and away fixture and everything. And like you were saying, a lot of the international boys probably sort of crying out for this at the moment. Particularly sort of club-wise, has there actually been a lot of, because there's sort of a debate going on as well, that this sort of break could actually help give a player like another year in their career and everything? Is that something a lot of the Bristol boys have sort of spoken about? Are they feeling the benefits?
I can only speak from my experience. Obviously, I don't have to go back and play, but my body feels 10 times better. It was pretty much shot by the end of it, but I was ready to be put down anyway, so it didn't really matter. No, I can only presume that the boys are feeling better. You know, with us at Bristol, we've not stopped because, you know, the boys have got to stay in shape. They've got to stay fit, ready to go, but just mentally and as well, you know, just not that day-to-day contact, even though you're not doing contact every day, but just the heavy grind of it or bumping into each other, it does take its toll after a while. So, you know, a prolonged period of not doing that is going to be good for anyone.
Brilliant. I was going to ask as well, sort of saying on the coaching front, obviously you said about the under-18s and everything. With that whole setup, have you actually got, or is it something, it might be something that's already in place, but look at development links, like with different schools in the Bristol area, have you got many like signed up to either like a feeder program, or do you like go into various schools and do lots of work with them so that they can feed that system?
Yeah, so I think this was part of the problem when I mentioned about a shake-up with the academy at the start of last season. Danny Grucott went into Clifton College, and he's sort of, you know, the go-between between Bristol and Clifton Colleges. You sort of see you need a big public school, and then you also need an ACER school. So we've got Filton College as well, that we get so many players from, and they do a great job as well. And then there's all sorts of schools around the southwest that we get players from. We get some from Hartbury because they're born in Bristol and they want to play for Bristol instead of Gloucester. You know, it goes all the way up the M5 there, and we get a great mix. But probably our two biggest schools are Filton and Clifton, and we've got a good relationship with those guys. And then there's also BGS and other schools around Bristol. Colston's not as big a rugby school as when I went there, but they still produce some great players, and they're going to be strong next year. So, you know, all the schools around here are pretty good.
Good. So just circling back around to Chris, obviously from Leeds you've gone to Leicester for, was it 9-10 years? Obviously plenty of success there. How was your time there working obviously under Cockrell? You know, what's he like up close as a human being? Because we only sort of see this sort of persona.
Yeah, so 10 years with him. I don't know, just about grew to like him after 10 years. He was all right. I think, how to put it, my first 2 years were the toughest because, you know, the culture there, you've got to prove your worth, and you've got to show your value. Otherwise, you know, you get spat out. And that was part of the reason why they were so successful. You know, they weren't just, they were accommodating, but, you know, you've got to prove yourself to that team and those guys. And Cockers did a great job of driving that and leading the culture, obviously playing there. At times he was harsh, but at times we needed it. And, you know, I've got great respect for him. You look at the job that he's done at Edinburgh, he's turned them around, and he's probably done it with the same way that he did with us. You know, it's definitely the stick and not the carrot, but you know, that was the way that he was, and he was demanding of us, but it made us successful, so we didn't mind. And you know, I'll probably look at Leicester now, and they probably miss a little bit of that.
Do you think he'll ever sort of return to Leicester? You know, it sort of didn't leave on a massively great situation, and as you said, there has been a noticeable sort of change in the club. Do you see him coming back, you know, further down the line?
I don't think so. I think you know, he'd look back at his time now, and he'd be proud of what he achieved with us boys. And the way that ended, it sort of ended 6 months after I left, but I could sort of see it coming before then, which was sad to see. But, you know, sometimes you know, with myself as well, myself included, sometimes things just run their course, and you know, the place changes, you don't fit the mould anymore, and that's it. So that was the same for me. 10 years, and you know, Aaron Major came in. I didn't fit the way that he wanted to play, and all of a sudden it was see you later. Partly my decision as well, but with Cockers as well, I think, you know, it just ran its course, and you know, he's gone on to show how successful he is and how good he is.
What do you think? Obviously, this year, Leicester seemed to be on the chopping block quite early on. Obviously, without the Saracens situation, what seems to be the issue going on this year? Then, because obviously, having the last, say, 3 or 4 years, we've had recent successes, but this year seems to be completely different. What seems to be the problem? Is it over-reliance on certain players who have not been available, injury, etc., or is there something internally, do you think, that's happening?
I don't know. Looking from the outside in, you know, they're probably not move with the times. You know, they sort of probably stuck in. I know the Leicester mentality. It's we do it the right way. We're Leicester. You know, and they've probably been caught out a little bit as the game's moved on massively. Like if all the games have been rerun over the last few months from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you watch the games and it's like a different sport. Like I watched that 2009 semi-final. Like you look at the defence and you look at the attack. It's so basic. You know, it's mad. So you know, you think if you take your foot off the pedal or you don't think forward for 1-2 years, all of a sudden you get left behind. And you know, you've got to keep evolving, keep learning. You know, and I'm sure Leicester, you know, with the changes they're making, I'm sure they'll get back to where they need to be. You know, Borthwick going in there will be great for them. Everything I hear about him, seeing him operate in the England setup as well. Because we went and trained against them, England last year with Bristol. You know, he seems outstanding and a great appointment. And, you know, then that will leave Geordie to just keep putting his hand towards the culture and the running of the club, because nobody knows the club better than Geordie Murphy. So I'm sure they will get back to where they need to be.
So, say, obviously mentioning about like Cockerell, the whole ethos at Leicester, you moved to Bristol, playing under and in the sort of culture of Pat Lam. Like I've seen documentaries, read about the whole culture he created at Connaught and everything. How it's almost like it comes across as a very family feel in that squad, and looking outside in, it looks like an unbelievably tight-knit group of players. What is Pat Lam like to work under?
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Pat. You know, if I take you back to when I first signed for Bristol, you know, I got sold the dream, sold the vision. You know, we're gonna do this. They had the stadium, at the back of that, everything. Andy Robson was the coach, so I was like, yeah, sounds great. I was 29, 30. I thought, you know, my last few years of my career, let's do something real special. Get Bristol back up where they need to be. And the first year was absolutely horrendous. We went through 3 head coaches. The club was pretty unstable. It was very rocky. And, you know, for me, I was tarnished with that brush. Pat Lam coming in, not coaching in England, not knowing that much about me, only what he'd seen, me being part of that team. So I'm sort of at 30 thinking, oh my God, like I've got to prove myself again to a head coach who hasn't signed me, or he's inherited me from these other coaches. And, you know, we're in a bad place, to be honest, going down to the Championship. It'd have been tough to get back out if we'd have kept going on the same road we're going. And Pat just come in and completely changed everything about the club. The culture, the vision, the way that we did things, the game plan, the way that we wanted to play the game. It was absolutely something that I've never seen before. And for one man, he brought in some people with him who facilitated and helped him. Conor McPhillips is massive for him. But he's the hardest working guy I've seen. You know, and the culture in that, it's just grown and grown each year that we've been together, and now it's truly, you know, his team, all the guys that he wants. You know, he's signed them, and you know, he's really put the club back together and got them back. And the dream that I signed up for, he's managed to deliver.
Do you think things are going to be a lot more equal given the salary cap's being reduced down to 5 million now? Obviously, in 2022-23 season, the marquee player is going to be now down to 1. Do you think that's now going to make life a little bit, I wouldn't say a little bit easy for Bristol, but start bringing you more in line with the Exeters, the Saracens, and pushing more towards that top 4 finish? Obviously, Saracens not being there next year, but is it going to be a little bit more equal spread for the next 4 years?
Yeah, I think, well, it gives everybody an opportunity. It gives everybody the same opportunity they had before. You know, the thing is like you could spend 10 million, but it doesn't mean that you're going to win the league. If you don't have the right players buying into the same cause and the right coaches delivering the right game plan, the right tactics, you can spend as much as you want. You know, it doesn't guarantee success. You know, where it probably lies now with the salary cap dropping down, it's one, how many players from your academy can you get through who are going to make a big difference, and how many players can you upskill and they perform above their pay packet. Like you're still going to have the big signings, you're still going to have your Semir Andradas, your Charles Pietau's, because you know you're going to need the competition's going to need those for it to be the successful competition it is. To me, it's the best club competition in the world. But you know, you start devaluing it, it might become an issue. But you know, I think Bristol didn't want to drop the salary cap from what I've read and from what I've heard from Steve and in the media. But you know, you've got to go with it if it's going to save clubs and it's going to be best for the sport. But as well, you know, you can see it, the sport, they just want to sort themselves out and then want to grow it back up again.
Do you think it stuffs Saracens a little bit more, given they're now letting some of these higher players are going to remain, albeit some are going out on loan? I think one of the players is just, so was it Lovzowski's just gone out?
Yeah, Lovzowski's
Obviously, they're all dishing out their players, but some of the top players. But do you think, obviously, coming back into the Premiership is going to be a little bit tougher for them to keep these players, and it's going to completely change Saracens moving forward?
I think so, and obviously they're going to have to be whiter than white, and every club is now going forward. But you look at some of those players that Saracens have developed, like your Toges, your Cruz, your Farrell, and then they've got to pay them the mega bucks, so then they take up half of your cap. So you sort of catch-22 really, what to do. So you know, it's difficult for them because they have produced so many good players, and you know, now they're paying the price. But obviously they had brought in some unbelievable players as well, which probably took them up a bit.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously Carl Sinclair's joining. Obviously a big signing in Bristol. Obviously, is he getting full in onto the old group chats and obviously dishing it out a little bit, or is he kind of remain quiet? 'Cause he's not at training, is he?
No. I think our boys go back in a week or so, but no, he's been quiet. I've not heard a word from him, so you know it'll be. You are.
That's very unexpected. I expected him to start dishing out from day dot.
No, I'm sure when the boys are in, I'm sure he'll get comfortable pretty quick, and you know the boys will accept him. But you know, Johnny Afar as well, even at his age, he'll still be gunning for him. Don't worry, he'll still,
yeah.
So, yeah.
But he's definitely a big sign for you guys. Is there any any more on the horizon, or is it obviously? I know you probably can't name names, but is there any more suspected to be coming across that are going to see Bristol move to that next level?
No, I don't think so. I think, the business that they've done has been good. Obviously, Semi Rendradra that mentioned, Carl Sinclair, Mitch Eady coming back. Some real good players, and then with a mix of some young lads coming through as well. So, as we spoke about, if you want to stay in the cap, you've got to get that mix and you've got to get that balance right. And I think they've done that. And, that's probably the way that it's going to be for most teams recruiting now. If you look at Pat's model and the way that he's done it, he sort of brings in the stardust, but then he also promotes within and finds some good guys from the Championship and upskills those. And that's probably the way that rugby's going now.
Obviously, you mentioned the Championship there, and obviously that's now going to become a hot topic, given they've already lost 50% of their funding. Most clubs have now gone into the old, we're going to have to go semi full-time, we're going to have to go part-time.
Yeah.
At the end for them, in the sense of this is the way forward where it's going to end up being a 14 team Premiership, and the Championship's kind of now screwed, essentially? Or do you think they'll survive this? Because there is talks of them splitting off and pissing off elsewhere.
You hope not. You hope not. After, I played that 1 year in the Championship when we got relegated and we needed to get back to the Prem. Mm-hmm. You really hope not, because there's some great clubs down there, some real traditional old clubs as well, who are the heartbeat of the English game. So you hope not. And it's a great place for a lot of players. They start out there and learn their trade, because, as I spoke about, when I started out 16 years ago, probably the standard was probably where the Championship is now. Probably the Championship's better than where I started out. So, it's a lot harder to come straight into the Premiership at 18, 19, 20 because the standard's so high. The game's gone out of sight. So guys need a league that they can develop in and they can get better in, and then they can, then they're ready to go when they get the opportunity, instead of just going in for 1 or 2 games and then being spat back out. Especially playing at a level where the games matter. I'm not saying that the A-League, the games don't matter, but it's prematurely a development league. But the Championship, teams are trying not to get relegated. Teams are trying to finish as high as they can. Teams are trying to beat each other. Games that matter. You've got to have the experience on, do we kick at goal? Do we not kick at goal? All these decisions in the game that end up with an effect on the result. And, playing at that level is great for the younger lads.
What do you think, obviously, with the RFU and what they've done in cutting that funding, and then with coronavirus causing even more issues, what do we do to maintain that league? Because from my looking in, it can't maintain. Obviously, those players are now have to go part-time, all of them. There's no way they're going to be able to manage to fund a full-time contract. Obviously, that then makes a dent in being Premiership ready, and they won't be. And obviously, I've always seen the Championship as a feeder for Premiership rugby teams. And as much as people say they're not, realistically they have been. You had your top flight, you had your Leeds, and you've got your Ealing Trailfinders and the relegated club for the Premiership. But the rest downwards hadn't really had the funding and the means to go up. So they've always been feeders for the Premiership teams. But if they go part-time, that's where that ends it. What do we need to do to come see stop that from ending? Because it's just not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, as soon as they announced the cuts, you sort of saw the writing on the wall a little bit, and as I said, it's sad because it is such a good league. It's competitive, but then the problem that some people see is the Premiership team comes down, and because their budget and everything's so strong, then it becomes sort of 1 and then 11 almost. So does it? I don't know. If you make it a level playing field at that level, does it make it a better league? And then you sort of have go back to the old Championship where they used to have a playoff with the bottom of the Premiership at the end of the season, and you know, you usually get a team who's out of form and a team who's been smashing the Championship, and you can get some funny results. But it's such a tough one. It's a long debate that I don't have enough experience or enough say to talk about. You know, all I can talk about is my experience at the Championship. I thought it was a good league. I thought, you know, the players that it produces is outstanding. So, you know, I'd be all for to see, you know, it going forward, but the difficulties are there if you haven't got the money.
Definitely. It's going to affect some of the academy players that obviously a lot of the academy players do end up in the Championship. It is there and it has always been there. So it is going to have a profound effect, top to bottom, essentially.
Oh, 100%. You know, and as I mentioned, the more competitive that league is, the better and the quicker players develop and they can come play in the Premiership.
So, just want to touch back on a little bit about your coaching, Jordan. Is that something you were always planning on going into, or has that come about in sort of the last couple of years?
No, that it was always the thing that I wanted to do. Like people, you know, you talk about life after rugby, and people bore you with it from a young age, and you're like, oh, what are you going to do after rugby? And I was like, oh, I want to coach. Always loved the sort of the analysis of the game, the tactical, the technical, all that sort of stuff, the leadership, the mindset around it. So it was always something that I wanted to do. But, you know, with anything, it's about opportunity, especially at the elite level. You know, it's all well and good going, oh, I want to coach. But if Bristol hadn't given me the opportunity, it would have been very difficult to get into another team. So, and especially with everything going on now. So, you know, I've been lucky that it's been smooth. I'm staying at Bristol. But yeah, 100%. It's always something I wanted to do. I coached local club teams, coached North Bristol as soon as when I got down here. Last year, I started off coaching the women, and then got the Bristol Bears women, and then got the academy role. So then moved over to coaching that. When I was in Leicester, I coached Tamworth. You know, so it's something that I've done and looked at this year. I've just finished my level 3 with the RFU. So it's something that I've been planning to do, but just grateful that I've managed to get this opportunity, because, you know, you see a lot of players who might think, oh, I want to be a coach, I want to do this, and then come out, and then there's not that many jobs to go around. So it's definitely difficult.
So obviously, last year's career, spanning a number of years, who was your bogey team? Who was the team when you knew you were coming up and you were just literally sat there going, oh, shit, this is going to be an absolute bloodbath. This is going to be a pain in the ass. Who was your team that always crept in?
Probably when we were at Leicester, especially when Saracens moved to that artificial pitch. You'd go there and the wind would be coming down, and we just didn't. We never went well there, never. And the tide sort of turned. So we beat them in the Prem final in 2010. Then they beat us in 2011. And then I think they brought in the artificial pitch. And then I don't think, apart from at Welford Road, I don't think I beat them again. That was it. It was done. You know, they obviously brought in some great South African players, and then they had the young lads coming through, but they're so difficult to beat, especially on the artificial pitch. I remember getting never got beat like it with Leicester. We've got some absolute hidings though. I'm talking like 50 points behind them. It was embarrassing. Yeah,
they definitely, when they brought that artificial pitch, it did raise raise their game a little bit, because obviously they're used to it. Obviously, I got to play on that one time, and it was an absolute pain in the backside trying to figure out where the ball's going, when it bounces, what is it doing, and obviously underfoot, you're just not used to it.
Yeah, I think especially because it was the first one as well, and nobody was training on them, nobody was doing anything. Now, like, you know, you're going to Saracens, or you know you're going to Worcester. The week before, you'll find a 4G, and you'll train for the week ahead on the 4G, doing all that. But back then, there wasn't any. You weren't nipping down to your local RFU 4G pitch or, you know, your 4G pitch. It was literally like if you play, I remember playing in like December. So we're training on a flipping absolute bog at Oval Park and then going to Saracens and getting absolutely run around for fun by Chris Ashton, Strettle. It was just like, this is a joke.
Is it the way forward though? Do you see more Premiership clubs adopting? Obviously, you've got Saracens, you've got Newcastle. Is it going to move forward? Just obviously because it is easier to train on. It does last a lot longer, and obviously,
but
go down the bar on a boggy week. Obviously, that bottom corner is just an absolute pain in the backside. But
yeah, personally, like I'm not a massive fan, but that was probably because the way that I played the game and the way that pitch was, like obviously not the quickest, so didn't really enjoy it. But probably I've got a different perspective now. So doing the under-18s and the Academy League runs December to January. So you do all the games are on 4G, all the training's on 4G because you need it available to be able to go. So you think the last 4 or 5 years of players, that's all they've known. That's all they've done is 4G. So, you know, the next generation of players, they're probably going to be like, yeah, I love it. Love playing on that. Where probably my generation and a bit before me, they're like, oh, this is horrible. My knees are killing after being on it, and my back's gone, and all of that. But you know, if you're used to something, it becomes easier. But for me, you can't beat a Deso pitch at Exeter, Ashton Gate, those sort of pitches. Just unbelievable. For me, rugby should be played on grass and in mud.
it depends on which position you play. Obviously, I'm in the same generation as yourself. Obviously, Jack and Dom aren't. Obviously, if you're a forward,
Were you before then?
What?
I was like, you're well past it.
But obviously, as a back, I love the 4G. So, see, I was at Keighley and they just got it in. As a back, absolutely loved it. As long as you didn't let it bounce, it was great. Forward, hated it every single time. But I guess it does come down to positions because under Furt, you're always on the ground. Obviously, as a winger, I hate getting tackled. Too soft for that sort of shit. But yeah, it's definitely, I think moving forward, a lot of the new school kind of forwards will get used to it.
Yeah, but I think like you see those Deso pitches, like they're not nowhere near the boggy pitches that you used to play 10 years ago. They're immaculate. You know, half and half, so you get the best of both, really.
Definitely.
It's interesting you saying about that, JK, because
which bit about that you're young and I'm old, or
no, saying about the pitches as a back, because like playing sort of like South Wales area and stuff, playing 9 and 10, I would love playing on a grass pitch, particularly if it was wet, because I felt like you could manipulate the ball quite well, whether you were kicking it or whether you were using the forwards and everything. As a back, I far preferred. Like, you
stand still, you don't do anything.
No, but it's one of those where like I feel you get more of I prefer like you don't know what's going to happen on grass. Really, I just felt like it was better in general. And for me, I felt safer underfoot, like transferring weight and everything. So,
well, I still fail to believe both of your backs, but anyway. Normally we have Scenario Neil on. He's not been able to make it this evening, so in his absence, we will ask his regular questions. So the question is, Jordan, he's literally asked every guest we've had on this series, and the question is, so you're in lockdown for 2 weeks, as opposed to the 11 that you already just have. You can't leave the house. Who would you be in lockdown with that would make it a nightmare? Who could you not stand to be in a studio flat with for 2 weeks?
Oh.
I'm a bit upset you didn't do it in a West Country accent. I'm actually.
Sorry, I can't nail accents.
Oh, that's a tough one, eh? I don't know, because I'm so used to being at home with the family and stuff. It's been a long time since I've had to contemplate being anywhere with anyone else, to be honest. I'm trying to think of bad roommates or something that I've had. I tell you who's the worst roommate I've ever had. Lee, do you remember Lee Robinson? Bristol winger, was at Leicester for a very short time. Room with him when he's at Leicester, you come back, he'd have used both towels, he'd have stole your pillars, you stunk out the place. So if anyone, it's going to be him.
Oh,
Fair play.
lucky. Who would make it a dream for you? Well, I'm going to go different. Who would actually be the nicest person to be with? It could be the best cook, best pants. Who would make it a dream?
I don't know, probably going from the Bristol boys right now, probably just left. Ian Madigan would probably, especially now the racing started up again, with
get a few bets on.
Yeah, we'd just be on that all day, chilling out, bit of training on the races. It'd be all good.
Yeah, you like your training because I think I read it on Wikipedia, and I think one of the things known for his exceptional physique. I think it was. Did you?
Absolutely. You ask any of the boys, that's the one thing, body fat, stuff like that. I've been horrendous through my whole career. It's like,
have one of the lads just gone on to Wikipedia and started changing it for the band?
I think my mum did it.
We've got a couple more scenario questions, one that has been asked most weeks now, and then I've got an interesting coaching scenario one for you. So the first one is, if you could go back in time now to your 16-year-old self, what would be the one piece of advice you would give yourself?
As a player, it'd probably be that the lifestyle. So if I go back to when I was younger, especially at Leeds, I was pretty hard dedicated. I've been dedicated my whole career, but I would go, especially when I was at Leicester and I was established, I'd go away for 4 weeks. I'd go on the piss, I'd get fat, I'd do all that. And then I sort of got to about 29, 30 when I sort of moved to Bristol, and I've never worked as hard in my life, especially off season if we're ever having a break or whatever, just to maintain a base level of where I'm at. So it'd probably be I didn't make a tour to Australia with England because I did terrible on an RFU fitness test. So you imagine missing out on a full England tour to Australia because you did terrible on an RFU fitness test. So it would be maintain that level of fitness and just, especially when you're off, just that little bit more dedication, hard work, and goes a long way.
Brilliant. The other one, Neil often asks scenario which is alcohol related. As some people know, alcohol is not my best friend at the moment, so I'm going to speak. And I'm going to ask a coaching related one, which is you're a bit like Dr. Frankenstein in this case, and you get to create your dream coach from any 3 coaches you've had. Which 3 coaches would you combine to create the ultimate coach?
You can't say Pat Lam just because he's your coach now. That doesn't count. You can't say Pat Lam just because he's the coach now.
Okay, so not Pat. So if we go through probably the ones who had the most influence on me, so Stuart Lancaster, Cockers, Matt O'Connor.
Nice.
Perfect. Nice one. Well, Jordan, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's been a pleasure to have you on. And thank you very much. And we'll catch you soon. Good luck with your new job and when the season gets going. And we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Jordan.